Edward Norton. Back when the MCU was still trying to figure out its identity, one of its earliest and most surprising shakeups happened behind the scenes of The Incredible Hulk. Edward Norton wasn't just cast as Bruce Banner, he was deeply involved in rewriting the script, shaping the character into something more grounded and emotional. But that level of control quickly became a problem. Marvel reportedly clashed with Norton over the tone, pacing, and final cut of the film. What started as creative collaboration slowly turned into a battle over vision, and in a growing cinematic universe, Marvel needed consistency more than anything else. By 2010, the situation had reached a breaking point. When it came time to assemble Earth's mightiest heroes, Marvel made a bold decision that stunned fans. Norton would not return for the Avengers. Instead, the role was handed over to Mark Ruffalo, who brought a completely different energy to the character. There was no big explanation, no storyline addressing the change. Bruce Banner simply looked different overnight. And just like that, one of Marvel's original leading men was quietly replaced, proving early on that even major stars weren't safe in the MCU. Terrence Howard. Before War Machine became a fan favorite under a new face, Terrence Howard was the original James Rhodes in Iron Man 2008. What makes this story even crazier is that Howard was actually the highest paid actor in the film, yes, even more than Robert Downey Jr. at the time. He played a key role in setting up Rhodey's future as a superhero. Everything seemed locked in for a long-term run, but behind the scenes, things weren't nearly as stable as they looked on screen. When Iron Man 2 went into development, negotiations took a sharp turn. Marvel reportedly wanted to significantly reduce Howard's salary, while Howard believed his role in launching the franchise justified a higher pay. The disagreement escalated quickly, and talks fell apart. Marvel didn't waste time trying to fix things. Instead, they recast the role with Don Cheadle. The transition was handled with zero explanation in the film. One actor was simply swapped for another, and the MCU moved forward like nothing happened. Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield was once positioned as the future of Spider-Man, with Sony building an entire cinematic universe around him. After the success of The Amazing Spider-Man 2012, expectations were sky high. But everything changed with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The film struggled critically and commercially, and suddenly Sony's big plans started to fall apart. Behind the scenes, tensions reportedly grew between Garfield and studio executives, especially as the pressure to deliver a massive franchise intensified. The breaking point came when Garfield allegedly missed an important Sony event where he was supposed to meet top executives. That moment didn't go unnoticed. Combined with the film's performance, it pushed Sony to make a drastic decision. They scrapped their existing plans and rebooted Spider-Man entirely. Garfield was out, and the role was handed over to who brought a completely different energy to the character. There was no big explanation, no storyline addressing the change. Jonathan Majors. At one point, Jonathan Majors wasn't just another MCU addition, he was the future. Cast as Kang the Conqueror, Majors was being built up as the next Thanos-level villain, a central figure who would shape the entire multiverse saga. He appeared in Loki and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, with Marvel clearly investing heavily in his storyline. Everything pointed toward him becoming the face of the MCU's next phase. But then, things changed almost overnight. Legal issues and public controversy quickly overshadowed his rising status. As the situation escalated, Marvel was forced to act. In a move that sent shockwaves through the industry, they officially cut ties with Majors. This wasn't just about replacing an actor, it meant restructuring an entire storyline that had already been set in motion. The MCU suddenly lost its central villain, leaving future projects in uncertainty. It was one of the clearest examples of how quickly everything can collapse, no matter how big the plans are. Letitia Wright. Leticia Wright became one of the breakout stars of Black Panther, with Shuri quickly turning into a fan-favorite character. After the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, her role became even more important to the future of Wakanda. But during the production of Wakanda Forever, reports began to surface about delays, on-set tensions, and off-screen controversies. The situation created uncertainty around the film and raised questions about Wright's long-term future in the MCU. While she was never officially fired, there were moments where it seemed like Marvel might have to make a difficult decision. Production slowed, rumors spread, and the pressure continued to build. In the end, Wright remained part of the film and delivered a performance that carried significant weight, but the entire situation highlighted how fragile even major roles can be. In a franchise as massive as the MCU, stability can disappear faster than anyone expects. Katherine Langford. This is one of the most surprising cases because most fans never even knew it happened. Katherine Langford was cast in Avengers Endgame and filmed a full scene as an older version of Tony Stark's daughter. The moment was meant to take place in a metaphysical afterlife sequence, adding emotional closure to Tony's story. It was a significant scene, one that could have added an entirely new layer to the film's ending. But when the movie was finalized, the scene was completely removed, not trimmed down, not shortened, completely erased. The directors felt it didn't connect strongly enough with audiences in early screenings. As a result, Langford's role disappeared entirely, despite being part of one of the biggest films ever made. It's a perfect example of how even major scenes and the actors in them can vanish without a trace in the final cut. Amelia Clark. When Amelia Clark joined the MCU through Secret Invasion, fans expected her to become a major player moving forward. Known globally for her role in Game of Thrones, Clark brought star power and anticipation to the project. Marvel positioned her character as someone important, someone who could shape future storylines. But after the series was released, the reaction was far from what the studio had hoped for. The show received mixed to negative feedback, and suddenly the momentum around its characters slowed down. Amelia Clark's future in the MCU became unclear, with no major announcements or confirmed appearances. While she hasn't been officially removed, the silence speaks volumes. In a franchise that constantly moves forward, being left in uncertainty can feel like being quietly written out. Sometimes actors don't get fired, they just stop being part of the conversation. Gina Carano. Gina Carano wasn't part of the MCU directly, but her situation had a massive impact across Disney-owned franchises, including Marvel. After gaining popularity in The Mandalorian, Carano was reportedly being set up for her own spin-off series. Her character was becoming a central figure, and everything pointed toward a bigger future. But outside the screen, controversy began to build around her social media activity. As backlash grew, Disney made a swift decision. Carano was removed from all future projects and her planned spin-off was canceled. The situation made one thing very clear. When it comes to major franchises, public image matters just as much as performance. For Marvel fans, it was a reminder that the same rules apply across the entire Disney ecosystem. One misstep can lead to immediate consequences, no matter how big the opportunity. Ray Fisher. While Ray Fisher is primarily associated with DC, his situation revealed something much bigger about the industry as a whole. After publicly speaking out against studio executives during the Justice League controversy, Fisher found himself in a difficult position. Opportunities started to slow down, and major roles became less frequent. It wasn't an official firing in the traditional sense, but the impact was just as significant. His case showed how behind-the-scenes conflicts can shape an actor's career just as much as their performance on screen. In an industry driven by massive studios and interconnected franchises, relationships matter, and once those relationships break down, the effects can spread quickly. For Marvel and similar universes, it reinforced the idea that stability behind the scenes is just as important as success on screen. And that's the reality of Marvel behind the scenes. Actors don't just get cast and stay forever. They get replaced, removed, or sometimes erased entirely before audiences even realize what happened. Sometimes it's about money, sometimes it's about creative differences, and sometimes it's about controversies that go far beyond the screen. But no matter the reason, the outcome is always the same. The story moves on, with or without them. In a cinematic universe built on long-term planning and massive storytelling, no one is truly untouchable. Not the heroes, not the villains, and definitely not the actors playing them. Because at the end of the day, the MCU isn't built around individuals, it's built around the machine. And if something doesn't fit that machine anymore, it gets replaced. Just like that.